All right. And we are back for episode 60 of Digital Divination. That's a big round number.
It's a nice round number.
Yeah. It's
60 is the new 50, I think.
I'm glad you're saying. I hope. Yeah. I'm way closer to 60 than you, so I don't know.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That wasn't a comment on my age, was it?
No. I was trying to make it. I was trying to one up your 50th episode by saying this
Yes.
one's going to be even more exciting and better.
Yeah, I was thinking we're 60% of the way to 100 now versus 50%. So that's Just I like to think that we're getting there, but it's like one episode every 2 weeks. It takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But time marches inexorably forward, as it always does.
It does. Yes. So speaking of time, how was your time this past week? How since we last talked?
Pretty good. I have been doing this thing where I'm making crossword puzzles again, specifically cryptic crosswords. And I found a little like a website that helps you generate them and shares them in kind of like a blog. So in the past couple weeks, I think I put out 2 already. And just the other day, there's like people can comment on them, and everyone's left really nice comments. So it's been pretty heartening. So that's fun. And our good friend Joe Piscini solves them on his Twitch stream when I put them out.
Where do you put them out at?
It's a website called Cross. Well, I think it's Crosshair or maybe Cross Share, but it definitely has a rabbit as a symbol. So it's just 2 S's, CROSSHARE. So .org.
Nice. And so you put them up, and then Joe finds yours, only yours.
Well, I send them to him. He solves a bunch of other puzzles. He's always solving puzzles on his stream and doing other things. So he's been doing that. I've also been the past couple weeks I didn't do so much, but only Sunday I did my own stream where I played a video game set in 17th century France where you cheat at cards.
Okay. So is it like a first person point of view, or
it's more of like it's got this really great art style. It's more of a point and click adventure type deal, and then it's some rhythm elements in the card cheating, and then the Comte de Saint Germain. I don't know if you're familiar with French history at all, but he is a sort of a notorious supposed con artist of history, and he's teaching you how to cheat at cards to get money and.
And maybe is this a good how-to? Like, if I wanted to learn how to cheat at cards,
a little bit. You'd have to. You just have to learn how to like palm cards and do all the.
It's really serious cheating then.
Yeah, but it's also
just
stuff
card
like
counting.
Yeah, there's stuff like signaling. Yeah, because it's the 2 of you, and you signal to him that this person has. You can, you get a good look at their. Like, there's one part where you're just dealing the cards out, and you've got to deal the cards to the person you're trying to swindle over a reflective surface so you can see them. And then you go, oh yeah, well that guy, and then you signal with holding cards a certain way, like, oh, that guy has a king of hearts, and that lets you win the bet. Basically, it's real simplified in that sense. You're not necessarily, worried about chance too much.
Yeah. And where do you stream that one at?
I have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Hers Weston. It's very infrequent, but if you follow me there, you'll get a notification when I do it.
I will do that because I'm kind of curious. I'm still getting to know you, so I want to see the kind of things you occupy yourself with. So
true.
I will check that out. It's not how long is it typically?
I only stream for about an hour usually.
Yeah. Okay.
90 minutes most tops. Yeah.
Something. And now is that recorded at all afterwards, or it's just
Twitch has VODs. I don't know how long they stay up though. To be honest. Okay. I'm kind of just a complete newbie at Twitch, so
yeah. Well, cool. I will check that out. Well, that's like you've been doing something creative and productive.
Sure. I currently don't have any like freelance, so I've been doing my own projects basically, and that's one of them. But the crossword puzzles is one of them. Yeah. What about you, John?
Well, speaking of freelance, I just wrapped up a freelance thing for said Joe Piscini. For an unnamed project. I'm not even going to say the nature of the project.
I don't.
Coming out next year, so it's a long time. But it's the biggest single assignment I've had of about 20,000 words.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm feeling like I'm finally getting up to that. I want to get up to show I can do like 30,000 words, and somebody eventually will give me an AP. That's kind of my goal. So I turned everything in on the milestone date, on the final date, 100% of word count, try to format everything as best I could. And I actually had all kinds of medical issues throughout my eye. I had eye surgery, and now my
right.
Allergies have just been killing me. I have a hard time looking at screens. And so one of the things I was going to say for anybody watching the video, my eyes are probably going to water. I'm probably going to rub them, and I might actually put on sunglasses if it gets bad enough. Just my eyes are that light sensitive. It's grass pollen in the area, and apparently I'm super sensitive. That when I was up north near Skagit Valley, and that valley's just got tons of pollen. So I came back Monday to Bothell here, and I was better. Then I drove over to Ron's house out in Carnation, and this place Woodinville in between was awful. I'm driving, my eyes are getting awful, and
oh no,
yeah. But they finally cleared up when I got to Ron. So, yeah. So that's what I've been mostly dealing with, trying to finish my freelance work, and then dealing with allergies stuff.
Yeah.
But speaking of Ron, we haven't given an update on what's up with him, though. He has publicly said some things, and people probably know that Ron is, in fact, taking a position at Wizards of the Coast, and they don't want him doing this show anymore, or they have kind of really strict criteria for the type of things he can do. So he's, being the lawyer that he is, trying to abide by those rules before he's comfortable enough to try to bend anything, I guess. But he says it's good work. He's he's got his head down, working on an adventure now, which is kind of what he loves to do.
Yeah.
And
he sent me a Discord message saying that he had listened to our first episode. So, and and that he's back from France.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and he brought an interesting gift back from France.
Okay.
His whole family, except one of them, got COVID.
So rough.
Yeah, so he had to isolate. In fact, it wasn't up until Saturday that they were all testing negative, so we could actually have our game on Monday.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so that was good. It was because it's the first time. So we've been playing in person in this house for I don't know a bunch of months, but we haven't played for like 2 months because of COVID and his trip and all kinds of stuff. So we're finally getting back into playing the Abomination Vault. So
Abomination Vaults. Oh, great.
Yeah, so really enjoy that.
Cool. I had my a Monday ago had a fourth session of Outlaws of Alkenstar.
Oh wow, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did. We're still in the first part essentially. We finished up the first chapter of the first volume.
Are you playing or GMing?
I'm GM. I'm running it, which means I get to do all my cowboy draws. Although that session was mostly gnolls and ghosts, so not so much.
Ghosts, they're not ghost cowboys though.
I don't want to spoil much about the adventure, but this particular ghost was not a cowboy.
Okay,
I'm sure there'll be some ghost cowboys coming up.
Yes, so you could mix that in. Do you do a lot of voices when you're GMing then?
I love doing voices, John. I also this past couple weeks just started a different group running a game set in the Discworld. I don't know if you're familiar with the Discworld, Terry Pratchett.
Yeah.
So I was doing terrible British voices, but I also had made a character who was essentially French. And as I was doing her voice, it was coming out. Things came out when I do characters like that. Sometimes the improv in me takes over, and I start adding character traits that I didn't realize I was going to do. So I said oh, do you want to take a sneaky peeky as this? And I was like, why did I say sneaky peeky? I don't know. And then I really started to like that character, and I was like, oh man, I hope nothing happens to this character. I'm really enjoying doing her voice.
No, that's neat. I like GMing. I'm not. I haven't done a lot of acting or improv or anything. So, other than like, really gruff Russian, that's about the only thing Russian or Bulgarian and some flavor of that. That's about all I can do,
That Russian is a fun one to do.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, that's neat. Someday, and we've talked about this offline, we need to get into a game together.
Yes.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I want to hear your voices in particular, but I think it'd just be fun to to kind of play. So getting onto our show now, one of the things I do post on our Discord is we have a couple places for our patrons and also just general community members. I kind of say, hey, Jason and I are going to record our episode. Does anybody have any questions? And one of our very favorite listeners, or they always seem to be listening anyway, goes by the Discord handle Lava Being, and they had a bunch of questions. I don't know how many we'll get to, but this one I thought was relevant for starting out with you and I. And Lava Being asked, what's the difference between a designer and a developer, especially in the Starfinder space?
Yeah. It is a fine distinction that I think really only matters at Paizo for the most part, to be perfectly honest. Because when we talk about designers, our design work is creating kind of raw rules and rules text. And developers develop text that is slightly less rules oriented, I would say. Mostly, getting into setting and lore and the narrative and that kind of thing. However, every designer develops text and every developer has to design text essentially, right? Because when we work on, especially a developer, when has to work on myself has to work on an AP, and there's some stuff in the back. There's some new gear in the back or spells or whatever. I'm developing that text, but that's rules text, so it's technically design work in a lot of ways. So on Starfinder, Joe Piscini, who we talked about as our lead designer, and he's sort of sets the tenor for what kind of rules, the elements, he'd like to sort of see. Unfortunately, due to time restraints and all that, he doesn't get to look at every single piece of rules text that we sort of get through. We try to get him to read stuff, and then he also deals with the aftermath of all that, dealing with the facts and the erratas of the rules, and maybe answering questions on the forums and stuff like that. And I think that's sort of what happens a lot on the Pathfinder side is, they're taking raw classes and or creating them out of whole cloth, and then doing the math necessary to test them or what have you. And when it comes to sort of creating, when we go from Pathfinder First Edition to Starfinder, we needed to do the design work is on making the new classes and updating bits of the rules here and there. And same with when we went from First Edition Pathfinder to Second Edition Pathfinder, is a whole team just working on rules. So that's in sort of in theory what the difference between the two.
Now you mentioned one thing, and now I kind of wonder, because I've had an interesting interaction. So, as a developer, you're putting together in the APs. There's usually like a GM toolbox or something at the end, right? And there will often be a lot of rules things in there, character options and things like that. Do you don't fly that by Joe? He just might look at it sometime, but he doesn't approve, sign off on that stuff, does he?
Often, yeah. We'll let him do a quick sniff test of everything to see how it works. Now, that's in the development stage, and that's actually, I think, happens over on the Pathfinder side of things too. There's a designer who will give a sniff test to some of the more rulesy elements of a book, whether or not it be a Lost Omens book or an adventure pack.
Right.
And so, yeah, for the most part, we know we keep some documents that are just like, hey, don't make bonuses that high or whatever. Like there are some sort of design guidelines, so that sort of helps to focus that. We have the usual math spreadsheets to figure out, weapon damage and spell damage and stuff like that. So that's the sort of stuff that Joe makes ahead of time, so that we don't have to bug him.
Oh, right,
about
right.
every
Yeah,
thing.
I've seen those. Yeah. Got it. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering, because I was doing some writing on the Pathfinder side, and it was kind of rules-based stuff. And one of the things that I was told is, I was writing something up, and I want to make something really cool a certain way. And they said, oh, we can't introduce something that different in this book. It has to be developed more wholly in a different type of book. And it seemed like a lot tighter constraints than I've had in Starfinder, where Starfinder, we introduce all kinds of new stuff in the books. You don't have as much depth of lore, I guess, in history as you do in Starfinder that you have to tie together, I guess.
Well, yeah, there's that, and Starfinder only gets so many books shots, so that we
Oh,
can
yep.
essentially, because stuff in APs and lost omens, but the Pathfinder hardcovers come out a little more frequently
Right.
than our
Right.
hardcovers do, and our hardcovers have to also encompass our sort of books that might be a little more heavy lore, or monster books or something like that. So they're not
Right.
just pure rules option books. And so we get to be a little loose about, oh, here's a new kind of spell or something in a Pathfinder AP, as long as we there's some stuff. I'm going to bring this up. No, it won't be that much of a surprise because I've announced the name of the title of the adventure, which is our 50th AP volume. Is called Clockwork Demons, and that's part of the Drift Hackers AP, which obviously doesn't come out till next year. But there's Clockwork stuff in it, right? And we said, oh, it'll be
Yeah.
fun to have some Clockwork stuff in Pathfinder, and it's um, does some slightly different, interesting things with weapons and gear and that kind of thing.
Oh, now maybe I'm gonna have to ask you a question because maybe I'm not informed properly. Um, are there two APs or one AP associated with Drift Crisis?
Two,
Two.
two
Okay.
APs, two 3-volume APs that can be run back to back to
Got it.
make one AP
Got it.
if you really want,
Okay.
but they
So
are
there's Drift
separate
Crashers
stories.
and then
Mhm.
Drift Hackers.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It's a lot of drift.
Yes. Well, I remember hearing early on about those two, and then I forgot, and I
Mhm.
knew that we were talking about Drift Crashers a whole bunch. I didn't know that anybody started talking about Drift Hackers, and you're sure
I
that's
brought it
been
up at
announced.
PaizoCon.
Okay, then it's fine. Yeah, yeah,
I said all this at PaizoCon to the larger Twitch audience. I think I may
yeah.
even typed it into the PaizoCon Discord at some point. Everyone, the title, just the titles and the authors, and
Oh, yeah,
not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
necessarily
Cool.
that much about them. And I think the first volume comes out this December, so we have
Right,
solicited it by now.
right. Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, I was going to ask about hardcovers in general. I was kind
Hmm.
of thinking about this weekend that there's kind of three. I'm going to say three basic flavors of hardcovers that we have for Starfinder. We have kind of rules based ones. We kind of have right now, they're kind of location-y based ones. And then we have the creature ones, the Alien Archives.
Yeah.
And Alien Archives seem pretty straightforward. We have the first one, then we have AA2, 3, and 4. And I imagine
Hmm.
down the road there might be AA5. So that seems like a pretty constant system. The location based ones I think are actually kind of interesting. It starts off with Pack Worlds, goes into near space. We have uh, the Galactic Exploration Manual, which covers the vast. Then we have Drift Crisis, which kind of covers the drift. So I'm
Hmm.
categorizing all those kind of as different locations.
Yeah.
And then for the rules based ones, we have the core rule book, then Armory, Character Operations Manual, Starship Operations Manual, Tech Revolution, Galactic Magic, right? Kind of
Hmm.
building out different areas for that. Now, the reason why I bring this up is it seems like that um, with Drift Crisis, so that location based one, we have two 3-volume APs for that, so 6
Hmm.
total books, and then we also have kind of for each of the other areas. So for Pack Worlds, we had Dawn of Flame, which is a 6-volume AP. For the Near Space book, we had Attack of the Swarm, which is a 6-volume AP. For the Galactic Exploration Manual, though, we have Horizons of the Vast, which is a 6-volume AP. So there's kind of a close connection, it seems like to me, when you announce a new location book, you also have an adventure tied with it. Is that a very conscious decision, I guess, when you're developing those things?
Yes and no. With the drift crisis and all the drift crashers and drift hacker stuff, that is obviously a concerted effort to make a year long event
Right.
that will affect the setting. We're trying that as something to be, something a little bit different.
Mhm.
If you want to, it kind of the further you go back, I would say the less connected, not connected, but the less uh, uh, concerted effort we made to do that.
Right.
Um, going back to say Horizons of the Vast, I knew that the Galaxy Exploration Manual had the sort of exploration system in it, and it was
Right.
about the time that we thought of the story, and it sort of had, it was a nice coincidence, happenstance. And then at the time, actually, probably maybe Horizons of the Vast could have come out a slightly bit later, so that we didn't have to reprint the salient points of the exploration system in the first
Right.
volume of that, because it got a little crunched. And we didn't want to have to say exactly like definitely go buy this book, which is real brand new, and
Hmm.
but here's the but definitely we were pointing people to please go buy the book because it's
Right.
also got a whole bunch of great stuff in it. The connection between, I think, Attack of the Swarm and Near Space is a coincidence. um
Okay.
I just, it was like, let's have a swarm fight,
Yeah.
swarm war situation. So let's, and the, I didn't, I wanted to really wreck a planet. And so it couldn't have been one of the pack worlds. So we sort of thought
Right.
about, we sort of banded that back. Oh, maybe they attacked the pack worlds and we had to fight them off. But I really wanted to wreck something and then
Yeah.
come back to it. And at that time, there was sort of a prevailing attitude of like, there's the setting, but don't break the setting with the APs exactly, because if
Okay.
something drastically changes by the end of it, then uh, bringing it back to the status quo was always kind of like, a little bit boring. You know what I mean? Because what was the point of this AP if not, if it's all back to the same? And
Right.
the swarm wrecking one of the pack worlds would have been a major event.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I think I set that in near space just because I wanted it to be close to the pack, close enough, not
Near.
so far
Near.
away in the
Yeah.
pack world to be near the pack worlds, right? And so
Okay.
that when you are making characters for you, oh yeah, I'm from the pack worlds, and I just, I can jump in
Right.
here and get there pretty easily. Um, the uh, Although I would say Dawn of Flame is actually a direct result of something written in Pack Worlds. It came out long enough after that Pack Worlds was, I think, even in print, maybe at that
Mm.
point, or fully in print. When Chris Sims was thinking about Dawn of Flame, he read something in the stuff about the sun, how there's this one area
Right.
that is Asana Town, which is where the Lashunta have, psychic nightmares or something along those lines. He's like, okay, I'm going to base it full AP around that idea. And we're
So
like,
here's
great, go
one
for it.
sentence that I found. I'm going to build a whole
Yeah.
6-book AP around it.
Yeah, he's like, well, what if something was in
Yeah.
the sun, and what if they,
Yeah.
and then he just sort of riffed from there. So
Yeah.
that one was related, but it wasn't like we didn't consciously think to put that sentence in Pack
Right.
Worlds in order to make an AP out of it. It just happened to be there, and that's sometimes where we get our ideas. We'll
Hmm.
look at some stuff that we've already printed and be like, oh, we should do that. We should. I can think of ways to spin that out into full adventures.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does that process work? Where you said Chris Sims had this idea or you had an idea. Now, how does uh, a book get pitched, or how does an AP get pitched, and how does any relation between those kind of get worked out?
Yeah, I mean, we have generally weekly meetings where the whole Starfinder team comes together and we talk about we have a schedule. We know that we know enough that we need to make some APs, we need to make some hardcover books, and then we start figuring out what it is. And as a group, we sort of figure out what kind of book we think we need and what kind of book we have time for. And at the or what kind of AP do we want to do? The AP stuff is gets generally pitched, and that and because of the schedule too, we also know who's going to be working on said books. So those
Hmm.
people get
Hmm.
the sort of say on like, oh, I really want to make this AP be about space horror. I want this to be the space horror AP. Great, okay, yeah, well, and then that person goes off and writes an outline, and then that gets kind of bandied about to some people to sort of iron out some kinks or notice some obvious plot holes or whatever. And then once that sort of gets approved, we've start finding freelancers. It's I've simplified the process a great deal, but it does
Yeah.
involve us writing outlines and just sort of brainstorming things with each other, figuring out like, oh, here's maybe writing sample pieces for like a hardcover, like, oh, we want XYZ to look like this. Here's an example of it. So follow this template.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. And who has the final say on approving stuff? Is that Eric Mona, or is it somewhere else in the chain of command?
yeah, I mean, Eric has final say on a lot of this stuff through Starfinder and Pathfinder. I think being the publisher essentially, although I think his
Yeah.
title is slightly different now. Chief Creative Officer, I think, is the sort of the the one who says, "Oh, okay, well, and often, a lot of the times he's sort of in some of these brainstorming meetings to begin with, so he can help steer us in one way or the other. But uh, uh, for the most part, he's not, be like something's been completely outlined and everyone's thought about it and brainstormed, and then he comes in and says, "Hell no!" I don't think that's ever happened. It's just sort of it's
Right.
not because he's in the loop to begin with, so he knows what's coming down the line, and he just sort of gives a little check mark on the oh yeah, this all looks fine and detailed. Go for it.
Yeah, make sure there's no glaring things that you guys get
Right.
tunnel vision on and say, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't talk about this really horrific kind of thing given what's going on with world events or something."
Yeah, yeah. Or this,
Things like that.
hey, this
Yeah.
title of this one adventure sounds like an old Planet Stories novel or something like that. Something we might not have noticed. Or did you Google this? Oh, this sounds like something
Right.
else. Oh, change it. Fix this title. Or I don't like the way the sounds are.
Right.
Little things like that. I think are okay.
Yeah. Cool. Now you mentioned the hex exploration system, right?
Hmm.
That's in Horizons of the Vast, and
Yeah.
in the Galaxy Exploration Manual. One of the questions a lot of being asked is uh, also asked regarded like adding subsystems.
Right.
So when you decide you're going to add a subsystem or a mini game or something to an AP, or even I guess in a rule book, what type of process do you go through to say, oh, this is what we want to do, this is how we're going to balance it, or this is how it's going to work? Because there's like a starship subsystem, there's a vehicle subsystem,
Yeah.
hex exploration subsystem, now there's a mech subsystem, right?
Yeah.
All these different ones. So what type of considerations kind of go in on something like that?
I think it's sweet. There's some things about like what a story needs in terms of AP stuff. If we're talking about Horizons of the Vast was always going to be Kingmaker in space, so
Right.
and that was a
Yeah.
very much a exploration game with management, right? That exploration is sort of an oldie but a goodie anyway, right? So we knew we'd eventually probably have to have something like that in Starfinder because it's a role playing game trope in a lot of ways. Why
Hmm.
not provide people the tools for it? But with the charter management system to be added on to that was a sort of how do we want this? And the considerations for that were like, how can we make this? For me, always I would say it's a little bit about like, is this an extra subsystem? Can we make it engaging but simple enough for people to grab onto where there are voices that have meaning,
Hmm.
and make that how to put that on like 8 pages, how to make all that work on 8 pages, basically, right? Um, because I know, as having run the original Pathfinder Kingmaker a
Hmm.
while back, that Kingdom, both the exploration and the Kingdom match were of interest to my players, but like they didn't. Maybe one of them sort of was really knew the rules, and it was mostly
Right.
me sort of reminding them of the rules every couple of sessions. Oh, we need to do the kingdom stuff. Everyone just start rolling the dice to figure this and look, and then going through the charts and whatever. So thinking about that and hopefully making things not simple, but just sort of digestible enough that uh, players who want to can get into it and find all the fun choices, but maybe some of the other players who are in the middle ground of people who don't who vaguely interested in mechanics but are more interested in their character, can sort of also be informed. And then also, there's the people who are just sort of in it for the story can maybe tune out and have it.
Right.
This kind of thing can pass by pretty quickly, or if they can sort of raise their hand and be like, "Oh, I really think we should build a satellite dish now," if because
Hmm.
maybe something for their character would. I need to broadcast. I need a broadcast studio because my
Yeah.
character is a vid stream star.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's figure out how we can do that. Um, so
Yeah.
those are some considerations.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm GMing Horizons of the Vast right now,
Yeah.
and so we've been doing a lot of the hex exploration. We're just finishing up the first book now, and
Mhm.
Ron's in the book, and he's in the group, and his big thing is he really wants a space elevator. So
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that
yeah,
we're doing, what do we need to do to build up to get a space elevator? Yeah, he doesn't know why he
yeah.
wants one. He just thinks that's really cool. So
It's not something you can create in like Pathfinder Kingmaker. So
yeah.
let's uh let's do the things that are Starfinder.
Yes, yes, and he's very familiar with the Kingmaker as well, and So
Yeah.
he's kind of looking at the differences. Oh, we don't have to build a bunch of graveyards and dumps. That's not the way to maximize utility here. That's great. So
Yeah.
looking at the refinements of the system and things. I never played it, so I didn't know. So
Mhm.
it's good to have him there. Um, and I think our players, this is the first time we really got heavily involved in a subsystem, and my
Mhm.
players have really gotten into it, which
Oh,
I
good.
think is cool because it's way different than the regular role playing and bash
Mhm.
monsters kind of things, and we end up kind of splitting each session almost half and half
Oh,
to
great.
get enough done, and it's worked out fairly well. Now,
That's always good to hear because,
yeah,
we can create this thing and do a little testing in house, but you never really know how it's going to get fully received. Like, oh, this definitely works mechanically. And, I think there are some choices here, but like it takes, boots on the ground kind of
yeah,
experience to,
yeah.
to hear like, oh, people are into it. And
Well,
granted,
I've played or
one
GM'd
group,
most of these APs. If you need any feedback, let me know. I can get it from my
you know
players.
what?
So,
Let's go. Let's go from first. Let's start with Dead Sons. Tell me what you think now.
oh, okay. I got a lot of thoughts
Let's
on
get
that.
into it. Let's get
Yeah,
into well, we've already released sent the collected
yeah,
edition to the printer,
yeah. I
so there's
know.
not much I could change there.
That sounds I like it a lot, but there's just certain things. I'll tell you the thing that bugs me the most about Dead Sons, and as soon
Go
as
for
I
it.
saw that, I'm thinking this is nuts. There's a very large spaceship at the end, and the
Yes.
dimensions on it, the dimensions are just so far off for something that
Mm.
immense. And I'm thinking, they're saying it's this big, yet it only weighs this amount. There's something wrong here. There's
We
something
had
wrong here.
we had some trouble. I don't know why we bothered putting weights of starships into
I
the
know.
game at the beginning.
You
That
shouldn't
was
do
something that
that. No.
we shouldn't, because I don't know the math enough to
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could have been responsible for that original error in the core rule book because I didn't know the cubic square rule or whatever it's called
Yeah.
for weight.
Okay. Anyway, that's like I think everything else is fine, but that one thing it just still sticks with me. It's
Mm.
like, oh, I've been on ships that weigh this much. They're way smaller than this. So,
Mm. Well, this Empire of Bones is made out of bones, so and
yeah,
doesn't have a
but
whole bunch of life support systems in it, so it's lighter, right?
yeah, not
He
okay.
said,
Yes, yes, yes.
trying to
Anyway,
justify it.
yeah, but no, it's interesting. There's a lot of the APs. There are some really cool things to take away, and then there's some
Mhm.
kind of weird systems with them. So all of them, I think, introduce
Yeah,
something a little different. That I think makes them fun, right? Having
that's the
some variance there. So,
the idea.
uh, yeah. So when you develop primarily APs, right? You alternate
Yes.
with Jenny now, right? On APs.
It's yes, it's the other whoever's currently in the group at the point. It's been lots of people over the past 4 or 5 years,
Mm.
3 or 4
And
people, I would say.
where do you get your inspiration from when you're looking at, hey, my turn to do an AP, coming out next year.
Mhm.
What am I gonna base that around? What's a good topic or what's a good framework to hang things on? Where do you get that inspiration?
I have like a small list of things that I think I would be interested in, essentially, and it's always just sort of pitch a couple of those and then see what gets the most excitement and
Mhm,
work on that. But like begin with like the first one I outlined from scratch was Signal of Screams, and I was like, this is my first shot, and I just want to do space horror. Thank you very much.
mhm.
And went there, and then I can't remember what it did. Did Attack of the Swarm come I mean, it was Dawn of Flame, and then it was Attack of the Swarm already?
So Signal
Must
Screams,
have
Dawn
been.
of Flame, Attack the Swarm. That's the order.
Swarm,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, wow. It just seems like that there was I mean, I had already worked on a bunch of, of Dead Sons and Against the Ion
Hmm.
Throne, but those were not my ideas. Um,
Right.
Attack of the Swarm was just basically like, "Hey, we haven't really done much with the Swarm yet. It's one of our big baddies. Let's do something with that." And I was like,
Hmm.
"Let's do a war AP. I really wanna mess up a planet." But the thing about that is I'm not super familiar with war stories and that kind of thing, which is why if you play Attack of the Swarm, which is why at the end it gets weird
Yeah. Yes.
because
Very
that's
weird.
basically like, yes, I take it to the weird spot because that's where I want to go with it. I could have tried to really sat down and maybe mapped out an entire like real gritty war campaign. But this is also science fantasy, and I wanted to throw that
Right.
science fantasy stuff in there so that you get a comet that can skip around space. You get a mindscape, but it comes back to the grit.
Yes.
It comes back to the war at the end, which I
Yeah.
made a concerted effort to do something like that.
Yeah. Again, that's another one I played through. I did not like the
Mhm.
Mindscape at all. Not
Okay,
my
fair
thing.
enough.
I don't like the Mindscape. And then my GM, I didn't have a very good GM for it, and because I was
Mhm.
talking to Ron, who wrote the God Host Ascends, the final book,
Yeah, the
and I
final.
said, "Man, I didn't really get this part. What was going on here?" He said, "Oh, your GM didn't do this and explain that. He was supposed to tell that was the most important
Oh,
part." And so
oh,
I kind of
really?
kind of missed it all, right? Kind of the
What what
real,
what chunk
I
did
don't
you
know.
miss?
Um,
Without spoil, maybe you don't want to spoil it. So I
yeah,
you can tell
I
me
don't want to
later.
spoil it. There's something near the end, kind of a chase scene that if you don't do something,
Mm.
something happens. And it was like a
Oh, in his
nothing,
book.
yeah, in his book.
Oh, I
And it
know what
was
you're
like,
talking about then. Yeah.
yeah, it was like a nothing thing for us. And apparently it was a
Mhm.
big important thing. It just
Yeah,
didn't get told to us that way. And
fair enough.
these things happen. You get some variance.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why I like the GM stuff, because then I make sure I cover everything the way I want. Because you never know,
Sure. Yeah.
when you get,
You never know.
and I try to get Paizo folks to GM things, 'cause I kind of figure they know what they're doing. So,
Yeah. I think we
but
know what we're doing.
yeah.
Um.
So
Yeah. So some of the ideas kind of come out of necessity for maybe what the brand needs, because I think after
right,
that comes Devastation Arc, and it's like,
right.
let's have a high level one. Okay, what's the high
Yes,
level thing that I can think of? And let's talk about the two ancient
yes,
warring civilizations from Dead
yes,
Suns. Let's bring one of them in and have them be totally awful and evil. And attack the pack worlds. That was the attack the pack world situation. Needed to have these high stakes.
right. I think I'm halfway through the second book with that now, and Ron's GMing
Yeah.
it. And I really, and that's for our actual play, I really like that part a lot, because we
Mm,
started playing with Dead Sons with this group. And
right.
to now get the back, having that stuff come back, you
Hmm.
know, with uh, the Devastation arc is really cool. Except for I hate those spungins, man. That's just kind of a weird, creepy thing to me. This
One.
biological dungeon. In
Oh,
the first book, yeah, we called it a
yeah, that one.
spongin. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. No, yeah, that one's good. Let's get weird. There's a whole thing
Yeah,
about like we don't
yeah.
know what the Civ look like, so let's try to make them as weird as possible, and let's give them
Yes.
weird
Yeah.
stuff. Everything good about the let's second. In fact, everything good about most of what I develop. Yeah, I can contribute to the authors, but I would say especially the second volume of Devastation Arc. That
Yeah.
was a lot of Eleanor Farron's just
Yes.
we had a lot of conversations at the beginning about like how uh, uh, w- treat this because it's kind of a refugee story in some ways, and
Right.
how to make
Right.
sure that we
Right.
understand like but obviously it's also this ship comes in and you don't know where it's from. We have
Right.
to make sure that it's you talk to the the star chamber about like what do we do about it, and it shouldn't be just let's shoot it down because it's strange and alien, because that's
Right.
just a little too xenophobic, so we had to have people be worried about these sort of things, and
Right.
have some people
Yeah.
try to reach out but then get killed because it's a bad
Yeah.
spaceship.
Yeah. No, we're pretty excited about that. And Eleanor's actually in our group as well.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't want to GM it, so Ron's still GMing it.
That's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
yeah, and then Ron, of course, is GMing the book he wrote, the final book, when we get to that. And in our group,
Again, it gets
actually,
bonkers.
yes, we
Sorry,
play
it
tested.
gets
Our group
bonkers.
play tested
Oh, that's
part of
right.
it because nobody knew what level 18 to 20 was like, right? How
Yeah.
the balance was for things. And so he just brought in like one battle, like one encounter. We leveled up our characters to level 18
Mm,
to see how we would do with that. And I'm actually, we're at 16th level now in the second book. I've
mm.
learned a whole lot of cool stuff that you can do at the higher levels that, through society
Oh,
play,
good.
which we only go up to level 13 now, you never quite experience. And this really gets me really itching for more high level APs. So I hope that's something that's coming down the road. I'm
We
not going to
always
ask you about anything like that, though.
nah, the problem is that, not a lot of groups get up to that high level,
Yeah.
so high level adventures don't sell as well, so there's always
Yeah.
the
No,
the
I
commercial
hear all that
aspects, and
stuff.
I get
Yeah.
it. But, when you talk about high level adventures, the point of them should not be to shut down high level abilities, but to require high level
Hmm.
abilities, make
Right.
that part
Right.
of the story, and really just be like, "Oh, look, yeah, you can't maybe do everything that we tell, in the span of time that you are given here, but maybe you can because we don't know what kind of crazy abilities you might have or interactions
Right.
between spells or something like that." So, or this
Or
this this bit's
between
gonna
characters. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This particular set of encounters is going to run you ragged because
Hmm.
you're going to have access to all spells to refresh yourself and all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and because this is actually the third AP our group has gone through, we're
Nice.
pretty tight in terms of how we do things, and how we interact with each other, and it makes it very enjoyable. And in fact, I'm hoping when we get done with this one, because probably Ron won't be able to continue. I don't know what his status is going to be. That maybe we could bring you on board as well to
Oh
uh,
yeah.
to do one of your favorites, maybe some of the drift stuff. I don't know. It might be kind of fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. I mean, sure. I'm always kind of ready to run a game
Yeah.
if people want me to run a game for them. Or if anyone, every time I sort of hear like someone go like, "Oh man, I don't have anyone to play with," I'm like, "But I'll
Hmm.
play with you." But I don't have time to play with everybody, unfortunately.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I have to let some of that go.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, for sure. When again, we're probably 5-6 months down before we finish
Yeah,
all the
sure. Yeah.
this book, because we play every other week, right? To knock it
Yeah.
out. But for sure, we'll circle back on that. Well, Jason, this is some good high level stuff. I think that
Oh
we've talked
yeah.
about, kind of what your role is, and actually what happens in the Star Chamber there. And I'm hoping that we'll kind of dive into some more specific things. And if you actually have any questions for me that from my perspective as a frequent GM and
Yeah.
player, I have a ton of high level players in society play, but that's only 13 or 14. But I'm probably one of the few people that have played a ton and GM'd a ton, both APs and scenario. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you come up with as well.
Sure. Yeah. I guess, it's tough to think of questions, but like also just anytime you want to tell me a story about something interesting that happened in a high level game or whatever, I'm down to listen.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the biggest issue I have with high level games now is you have so many abilities.
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out, like I'm playing a Vanguard, and the Vanguard has
Hmm.
so many different ways to mitigate damage and do
Hmm.
different things. Keeping track of all of them, that's my biggest
Yeah.
issue right now. Because if we're not playing, every week, I got to go back and remember and have cheat
Yeah.
sheets and
Yeah.
do this, and it's online, so but Roll20 doesn't easily show all this stuff,
Hmm.
but yeah, for sure. I We can talk about that later. That can be something
Sure.
we have in
Yeah.
the
We're gonna
future.
maybe make a whole show out of it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I think it's about time for us to wrap up. I'm
Oh wow.
John.
I'm Jason. This has been Digital Divination.
All right.